Hey, shalom, 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 family. Welcome back to another episode of Dabarym, Scripture Research Institute, where we break down scripture and we dive into the deep, deep, deep world of understanding of the Hebrew letters, culture, the language, the people. But we can't do any of that before we get into the Aleph beat. We cannot break down words in scripture, cannot break down quote unquote Hebrew words if we don't understand the Hebrew Aleph beat, the letters that are arranged to make the words we're going to be talking about and discussing more on this platform. So, welcome back to another episode again. Your brother, Yahuwah, and we gathered here today, family, to go over another letter in the Aleph beat. I wanted to say another word study, but it is a word, but it's a word of a single. It's a name of a single letter. It's a word that describes a single letter in the Aleph beat. So I want to make sure we get it understood. The perspective is correct, but it is no less very important because today we're talking about the sixth and the most one of the most argued and controversial letters in the Aleph beat, which is the U, the letter U. And again, it's a lot of debate about, is it a V, is it a double U? Technically, it is a W because it's spelled with two letter U's. So we can see already the foundational etymological, um, the phonetic history of this word already, and just understanding that the letter U is very important because again, it's pivotal. If you understand this, understanding is pivotal. If you call a name of the father, let's say, I don't even want to say their name, Jovah, that people get that language, they get that rendering, that Jehovah name, because the understanding that the U is a V. People get the Yahuwah name, but sometimes it's the same Yahuwah, but sometimes people spelling it with a W because they feel like the U is a W, or they have a W and a U to represent two English characters to represent one Hebrew character. So the answer is definitely, the question is which one is it? So we're gonna be going through the scriptures today, right? So we're talking about again the sixth character of the Hebrew alphabet, very important character, the U. This is very important. We're gonna talk about what is the U, what does it mean, and obviously we're gonna show you guys how we find out, how do we get to the bottom of this. Again, this is always very important. Few people understand Hebrew, even less understand the Abadi. So we have to have a scripturally sound way of getting these answers. We're gonna explore the best option we have to ourselves, which is to let the scripture define itself. Right? We're gonna get our answers from scripture because people could tell you this character means this, and this, but they don't really have a lot of proof. Sometimes people can look at it, depict it graphically, and try to give you some ideas. But to understand what the scripture, what these letters mean, we have to dive into scripture. So let's do that. So I just need you guys to pay attention for a couple minutes, and 5-10 minutes we should have an answer, and we should cover all our bases, right? So I'm Yahuwah, your brother, your host, just a servant of Yahuwah that has been um, in the community for the last 10 years, studying, researching, leading and guiding my own family into these explorate these studies and these topics for myself and for my own household. At this point, we're just trying to share this knowledge, spread the knowledge, and bring awareness to these topics to the body of Yasharal. So I said we're gonna get an answer in 5-10 minutes. We already 4 minutes in. Let's get straight to it, family. So again, the first thing we're gonna be getting into is the letter U. You already know this is Dabarym. Okay, so U. How do we even say it? We just say U. It look like it say like Ua. Ua is a good way to say it. It's spelled two ways. I spelled it two ways for a reason, right? This letter is spelled W, a U and a U. Sometimes you may see people put an A between it, like it's a vowel. You put this little A in there for pronunciation's sake, but usually we only do that with consonants. This particular letter is a very interesting one because it's one of the few vowels in the Hebrew language. And the Hebrew language does have vowels, right? So with the vowels, we don't need to put this, the consonant in there or any extra letters in there. So if you look at the letter, how it's spelled, how it sounds phonetically, it's ooh, two ooh, just a double ooh, literally. So it's too simple to try to over explain. Literally how you spell the letter ooh with two oohs. How do you say it? Ooh, ooh. It's just ooh, man. It's two U's. Okay, so ooh is spelled ooh, basically two U's, and gives the sound of you, as in true. Again, if it's not a U, our take and our stance on it it's erroneous, right? Because if it's not a U, you changing all of the letters, all of the words that has a U in it, right? No one says Jerusalem, right? They don't put a V when they spell Jerusalem, right? They put a U every time, but then we'll tell you in another place when it comes to the name that it's a V, but it don't make sense. If it's once a U, it's always a U. When we say Yehuda, right? When we talk about the tribe of Judah, no one said it's Yahuah. They never put a W there. They never put a V there. They say Judah. It should be Yehuda, but no one ever, again, in that instance where it's a U, never try to put a V there or put a W there. So we need to understand that in the pound for pound translation, which is what we use, if we saying this letter is a U, transliterated from the Abadi to the English, if it's transliterated, if this ooh is transliterated to the English as an English letter U, once, it always needs to be the same. And once we realize we apply that one rule, we see and we can understand how our forefathers were able to see these letters, read it, interpret it, and we are instantly able to read, see, and interpret these letters, right? So although this is one of the most hotly contested, controversial letters in the Hebrew alphabet, it is the most simple at the same time, and it does need a lot of explanation. So again, the ancient form is literally a U on a stick. That's how we get it. It's a U on a stick. In the pictographic form before that, it looked like a V on a stick. And it's very rudimentary, very plain pictures that it's easy to tell the picture that we're looking at. I mean, this is one of the most straightforward letters you can have. The numerical value is the letter 6, the number of man. Very interesting, right? A lot we can get into it. This 666 is the vav, the ooh. So much symbolism in the Hebrew language and in the culture, and that's what we have to understand. Once we are initiated and we see it and we understand it, we realize that nothing has ever changed. These things have been around us always, and we were just blind to it. So we're gonna let the scriptures show us more, but it's important to understand that the definition of this word is translated as ooh, has been translated to hook, nail, peg. It means to add, or it also means and, right? And we can see all of these applications in context in scripture, but that is why we go to the scripture, because sometimes it means and, like this and this, right? Which makes total sense, but sometimes it means a nail. How do you know when it's being used as and or it's being used as a nail, right? So there's no way but to dive into scripture, right? And look at each instance in context. So to do this research, to be able to see this word and to find where it's listed in scripture, you want to use a concordance, and you want to go to the Strong's reference number H2053. If you go there to that reference entry, you will see all the uses of the ooh, right? So it's time to put a nail in it, man. This is the most contested and controversial letters in the whole alphabet, and hook on which proper understanding hangs. What was I trying to say? Look at this again. This is the most contested and controversial letters in the whole alphabet, and hook on which proper understanding hangs. The hook. It is the hook on which proper understanding. And if you look at the letter, I mean, you can clearly see it's a hook. It's a hook. It's a nail, a peg. They say that the first wide looking letter you see, like a V on a stick, is basically a pictographic representation of a tent peg. So we see how this letter is very much ingrained in Hebrew thought, Hebrew culture, and is used all throughout the culture in different ways. You know? So ooh in the scriptures, again, find the ooh in the scriptures, you want to look at the Strong's number H2053. Give you what it's been used as, but let's see what scripture has to say. First scripture, Shemut, commonly called Exodus chapter 26, verse 32. And it reads, you will hang it on 4 pillars of acacia, overlaid with gold, with hooks of gold on 4 bases of silver. This word that's translated into English as hooks is actually uim. It's actually you see how even when you say it sounds like a modern phonetic word. You know, it sounds very modern, right? The word translates seamlessly, but it's a W and it has a YM at the end because it's plural. It's just a plural form of uim. And when you go to this verse, you look at it in Hebrew, you will see it in the writing in Hebrew, in the interlinear. It's W. It's right there, and it's a simple word and it's a simple definition. It's translated as hooks, right? So they use this in the temple. If you had a wall to hang something on that wall, you would have to put a peg, a hook, a stick, a small connector in there. That is what the ooh is, and it's as simple as that, and that's what the pictographic meaning shows. So, continuing on in Shemut, chapter 27, verse 11, it reads, and likewise, for its length on the north side, there will be hangings 100 cubits long. Its pillar 20, and their bases 20 of bronze. But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets will be of silver. So we have some nice hooks in the temple, man. They were made of silver. See, some stuff were made of silver, some pieces made of gold, depending on which part of it went in, the most other part place or the common place. But the point is to remember that in various English translations, like whether it's the KJV or the NIV or this one, some may say peg, some may say hook, some may say this or that, but it's simply a wall mount. You know, it's a wall mount. That's what the uim was, and that is what the pictographic meaning shows. It shows the same thing. So very interesting. Yeah, man. So that's that right there. You see, just a couple scriptures. It's a couple more scriptures, but a lot of the scriptures was saying the same thing. So you want to put in that Strong's number. Go look at the references yourself. But peg, hook, nail, tent, peg, all these is the meaning of ooh, right? The ooh. And we see it also mean it's been used as and as well. One of the most famous examples of that, one of the most popular examples is the book of Leviticus. If you look at it, the first word in that, the first verse in the first chapter, the first word of that book is Uyakra, and it says, and he called. So that ooh, that's at the beginning of the word Uyakra, is the ooh, and it means and in that instance. So that's one of the more popular examples, but it's a very simple, straightforward word that that has a very simple definition, but it's integral to the culture. It's the peg, like I say, on which understanding hangs. If you just understand it's transliterated to a U, use it as a U, all the words make sense. But when we try to change it in context and different words here and it means something there, like they do with the vowel points, it sets us all up for confusion. So I hope that made sense, man. It's been your brother, LivingForYahuah, just chiming in on the ooh situation. One of the most simple characters we have in the Hebrew language. And I test you guys to go look at it in the Hebrew, see if you can identify it in the text, and look at how it's spelled, look at, you know, just how it's used. So if you made this far, like the video, subscribe for more, and we'll see you guys in the next video as we go over the next Hebrew character and phrase. Shalom, shalom, man. See you guys in the next video. Peace.